As we drove away, I watched through the side mirror how the 1900s guy turned into the creature again and started sprinting after us. I floored it, but this thing was gaining on us. In the fall of 1995, Sarah and I wanted some vacations and relaxation from our daily lives and decided to plan a trip. At first, we didn't know where to go. We didn't want it to be too expensive, so definitely somewhere inside the US. While I was looking at an old map from high school to see which state to go to, Sarah was on the phone with her lifelong friend, Emily. Emily coincides with her about having some vacations since her job has been super hectic since the Oklahoma bombing filled the area's hospitals. She also asked her husband, James, to go on a relaxing trip and have fun. So, Sarah had the idea of inviting them and another couple, another lifelong friend we have known since we started dating, Olivia and Michael. So it would be like couples retreat to relax somewhere, have fun, and forget about the daily stress. Later that week, Sarah called Olivia and Michael, and they agreed to plan a trip to relax and have fun. Olivia even mentioned several locations, including her mother's home state, Louisiana, specifically New Orleans. We met at our house to choose a location and planned to make arrangements. At first, we discussed all the other options, but they were too expensive, and Louisiana seemed an odd place to choose for a couple's retreat. But Olivia insisted it was fun. She went there when she was younger and mentioned a lot of partying, live music, and drinking. That sounded more fun and convinced us to go for that location. Plus, it was way cheaper than the other options. Usually, it is hot there, but at that time of the year, it would be nice outside, perfect for walking around and sightseeing. But as any 30-year-old, we didn't want to party hard every day and come back exhausted. So we opted to plan to drink every other day for that week and go on tours and sightseeing in between to rest and relax. It was the beginning of fall, so we decided to go by mid-fall to enjoy the pleasant temperatures. A month passed, and finally, we traveled to Louisiana to have fun. We were excited about this trip. There is something about having plans and time going slower as it gets closer. Anyway, we got to the hotel in New Orleans, and that first night, we went out and partied like we were in college again. We went to different clubs and bars. We tried the Hurricane signature drink, which was so good that I decided to stick to that drink all night. During bar hopping, you see many people in New Orleans doing the same things or offering some show. But a middle-aged man stuck out and gave me a weird look. He stuck out because his attire was from the 1900s, and I figured we were in New Orleans. And he must have been part of some show or something. He looked in average shape and a little weathered, as if he worked outside a lot. Nothing we hadn't seen before. It was just a little out of place for the ambiance in New Orleans. We kept bar hopping and met a lovely couple from Ohio who were also on vacation. We decided to hang out with them for the rest of the week. They were John and Linda, in their late 30s, not too far from our age. So we had a lot in common, and we clicked. Overall, we had a great night out, precisely what we needed to get away from everyday life. On the second day, we all, including John and Linda, went on some tours. We visited some historic buildings and went on a scary ghost tour at night. On our third day, our group embarked on a thrilling night tour to explore the infamous Frenier Ghost Town. The old, abandoned buildings were said to hold the remnants of a haunting past, and we were eager to experience the thrill. The guide explained that this town was once alive and a voodoo witch cursed it before dying. She said she would take the whole town with her when she died. Then, when she died, a hurricane came through. There were over 270 fatalities, even the ones who sought refuge in a mine. The mine collapsed and took those too. The moon cast an eerie glow over the decaying structures, intensifying the sense of suspicion. As we ventured further into the heart of Frenia, a howl echoed through the town, sending shivers down our spines. The guide assured us It was just the wolves in the area. He said he was armed anyway to fire some warning shots if necessary. As we went through the town in the tour van at probably 10 to 20 miles per hour, something climbed on the van's roof. Panic set in as we realized we were not alone. We told the guy that there was no way that was a wolf. He pulls out his gun and hits the brakes. The thing rolled from the roof to the front of the van. All the dust from those old roads lifted as he hit the brakes, covering the animal. As the wind blew and slowly cleared the area, emerging from the dust cloud, a wolf dog was in a defensive pose on all fours. We all calmed briefly until the wolf dog thing stood up in its hind legs. This thing was no regular dog or wolf. It had a huge figure, a creature with the body of a man, but the twisted visage of a beast. It was the Rougarou, the very embodiment of our worst nightmares. This thing lunged at the van as the guide accelerated. The next thing I will tell you, you will not believe it. This thing stopped the van with its hands, paws, or whatever. Maybe the van was too heavy with us inside. Maybe the dirt road was a little soft on that spot. All I know is what I saw. It stopped it. Linda, from the couple we met days prior, stupidly and full of fear, got out of the van and started running. John went after her, calling her name. The thing went after them. It's almost as if it liked it, maybe even expecting it. We were frozen in shock, maybe the fear or trauma of the couple's scream while being ripped apart, but we were just stuck there. Even the guide was petrified. It was an unexplainable sensation of fear and dread. The thing came back and stared at us from the side of the van through the open sliding door. When the thing was about to get in the van to end us, my wife's friend Olivia stood up from the seat of the van and walked out in front of the thing. At this point, in our minds, we thought this thing was controlling her mind. She raised her hand and said, "You've had enough. We have to save the rest for later." We could not believe what we were hearing coming out of her mouth. She turned around, pointed at my wife and said, "Not her. She's a friend," pointed at me, Emily and James saying, "I don't care about him or them." Then out of nowhere, her husband Michael stood up and said, "What about the guide? He is a local." In my head, I said, "What the hell?" Then the creature slowly transformed into a man. To our shock, it was the man we had encountered earlier, dressed in the attire of a bygone era. He said, "I might have him as a snack later." Once again, in my head, I said, "What the hell is going on?" As he turned human, the enthrallment was fading, and we were returning to our senses. My wife asked her lifelong friend, "Why?" She said, "It's the only way." They took us out of the van one by one, starting with the guide. As soon as they did, I summoned the courage, moved to the driver's seat, and took off. My wife was still frozen, but not by fear, but more from trauma after watching her lifelong friend almost accomplish her deceitful plan. As we drove away, I watched through the side mirror how the 1900s guy turned into the creature again and started sprinting after us. I floored it, but this thing was gaining on us. Suddenly I lost it. I couldn't see it in any side mirror or rearview mirror. So I thought, is not gonna keep running forever. I told James to shut the side door, and when he was about to close it, claws grabbed his arm. He was trying to pull away with the help of Emily, but the claws were going in too deep, ripping his skin. We were going 60 miles per hour, and this thing kept up with us. That struggle lasted a few seconds until this creature from hell pulled harder and took James away. Emily held on too tight and fell from the van to the road. We were not going to return for her. I floored it even harder, trying to get more speed, and finally exited Frenier. We left Frenia that night, forever changed by our encounter with the Rougarou. I drove straight to the airport, leaving everything back at the hotel. I purchased some direct flight tickets home. Relief washed over us, knowing Olivia and Michael knew which state we lived in, but not the exact address. since we had moved recently after our meeting for the trip. After we made it home, we researched the missing persons reports and found a constant of disappeared tourists in the area. We also found only one survivor from the New Orleans hurricane in 1915, Wayne Norwood. As in Olivia Norwood, my wife's lifelong friend. We never heard from her again or her family. Eventually, we moved from Oklahoma to Washington State. The sense of being stalked never left, so we had to move far from home. As we returned to our lives, we carried the memory of that fatal night with us. I always pondered on what they wanted to do with us. You know, besides turning us into snacks. Were they trying to break a curse or sacrifice us for some weird pagan god? Regardless, I still have the sense that at some point, somebody will knock on my door and on our front porch be standing the man from the 1900s. And so, our journey to find relaxation and escape led us to an unexpected encounter with the Rougarou. If you made it here, I appreciate your commitment, so you better appreciate mine. Hit that freaking like button before leaving. Thanks for watching. And keep watching while they're watching you.